Let's go.
Strong signal. Station.
We're rolling. We're gonna go in 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3, 2, 1.
Bringing you on the front line and beyond the headlines.
Beyond the headlines.
Outside the wire.
Outside the wire.
Congratulations are in order to the world champion New York Giants who played and won a hard-fought Super Bowl 42. Now that that's out of the way, I do admit I am very bitter about the outcome of what could have been considered one of the greatest championship football games of all time. Football is a game of routine. When routines are altered at the last minute, bad things have happened. For those of you out there who are real football fans, let's not forget Atlanta's Eugene Robinson, who was arrested for soliciting a prostitute in Miami the night before Super Bowl 33. One can't say there was not a distraction to Robinson, a married man, or the team. The Denver Broncos subsequently blew out the Falcons 34-19. But were they more than 2 touchdowns better? The Falcons say no, and privately they point to several distractions in addition to Robinson's arrest. With that, I'm still disgusted as I was all morning Sunday watching Senator Arlen Specter explain that the only reason the whole Spygate issue resurrected was because a New York Times reporter brought up the subject.
The New York Times reporter who covers the Senate asked me who I thought was going to win the Super Bowl, and I sort of half-jokingly said, well, it depends on whether any signals are stolen.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, instead of promoting the big game, was defending the investigation he closed and heavily fined the Patriots for 4 months ago. The Pennsylvania senator also claimed concern that the Patriots' victory over the St. Louis Cardinals may have been tainted by the reports that they videotaped St. Louis's pregame walkthroughs.
Now you have a breaking story reported that Matt Walsh says that he videotaped the walkthroughs of the 2002 Super Bowl with the St. Louis Cardinals.
This is one of the reasons the United States Senate has no business getting involved here. As I've written many times before, just because you get elected to a political office doesn't automatically mean that politician is an expert about anything. During the baseball steroid hearings, congresspersons repeatedly mispronounced the names of famous baseball players, illustrating their sheer ignorance of what they were investigating. On the Super Sunday special edition of ESPN's Mike and Mike show, Arlen Specter referred to the 2001 St. Louis Rams as the Cardinals. In 1988, the St. Louis Cardinals moved to Tempe, Arizona, becoming the Arizona Cardinals. And Specter wants to lead a football investigation? I would hope a panel of senators there to pass judgment on the Patriots and their legacy at least know a little something about football. I've invited Senator Specter to come on this show and address my concerns. It will be very interesting to see what happens from here. While Republicans are scurrying to galvanize the conservative and Latino vote, they neglect one group of the new electorate at their peril: the youth. The left has made great gains in creating little liberals. One need only watch the responses of younger voters. While being stereotypically flaky, these young people today are caught up in the windy trends of change. The word Republican is a dirty word, and they effectively recite the obvious sentiments of their progressive professors. Let me give you a couple of examples of how this works. Let's say a college was to hold a forum on obese people. One would figure they'd have a panel of 5 or 6 fat people all giving examples of how it is to be living large in America. I'd be willing to bet there'd be no one on that panel who would play devil's advocate, calling them whiners and giving that opposing point of view. That would be mean-spirited. A few years ago, I was invited by a student to be a guest panelist for a discussion on the rise of black conservatism at Stanford Law College. Judging from the name of that topic alone, I assumed that the panel would be made up of prominent black conservatives who would proudly articulate our positions. I was deeply flattered to be included in such a panel. But what was I thinking? As it turned out, I was the only black conservative invited to speak at the C-SPAN televised discussion. Instead of explaining my conservative views, I found myself having to defend them against liberal and Marxist professors. I think I held my own. After the forum, I was invited to a reception in one of the dormitory lounges. The two professors split, and I found myself surrounded by very curious students who had never heard someone who looked like me saying what I was saying. For the next 90 minutes, I fielded questions and debated issues with students who were starved for opposing points of view as to come to more informed conclusions. Let's look at the gay marriage debate. Many students believe Republicans are anti-gay. Why is this? While running for Massachusetts State Party chairman, I warned conservatives what would happen when you let the opposition define your positions. I know of no Republican who is against gay marriage, but it depends on what your definition of marriage is. When two people in America want to get married, what's the first thing they do? They apply for and get a marriage license. That is the law. With license in hand, they are, for all intents and purposes, married. In many states, gay couples are granted civil union status, for all purposes legal. Conservatives have no problem with that. However, marriage is another thing. If two people were to go to a church and get married without a state-issued marriage license, that marriage wouldn't be legally recognized. Marriage is a purely religious ceremony, and I contend the gay activists' push for marriage is simply their way of giving that trendy middle finger to the church. Thus, the conservative opposition to gay marriage. There are always two sides to every story, yet students and their parents who are paying good money for their education are only getting one side, the liberal side. I've made concerted efforts from day one to tailor my written, verbal, and video presentations to a younger demographic. I understand the need to make sure that young people are not all Republicans. However, if we sit back, they will all become liberals, and it's never a good thing to only have one side of an issue. You Republican candidates had better wake up and recognize the youth vote for what it is. This year, we're not dealing with unreliable rock the vote types. These kids today are motivated, will be counted, and are proudly progressive. An appearance with Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert is not the answer. We are not welcome on most college campi, but through the print and video windows of the internet, it is possible to reach thousands of young voters every day. Today would be a good day to start. What? Not a distraction to the team. Gay couples are required. New York Giants, who played a hard-fought Super Bowl, are only getting one side. I screwed that line up, sorry. Mispronounced the names of flaming baseball players. Oh. I'm really interested in healthcare. Since when? One can't say that was not a distraction to Robinson, a married man, or the team. The Denver Broncos. Bing, 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 bing.